Hi guys, I really hope that everybody's starting to feel a little bit better at this point. And I know that it's been a long time that you've had to deal with this illness, and I'm so sorry that you're going through so much. And this kind of brings me into the topic of kind of loneliness and maybe even possibly some shame around having an illness. I realized that when I was, I realized that I was becoming ill over a number of years. And then when I finally had my crash that took me out of the world in 2018, and then COVID hit, so I was still ill when COVID was around. And then finally being able to come out, after COVID calmed down, and I was well enough to start testing myself in the outside world. I realized how complicated that was, not just for doing the tasks, but I think for the expectations I had put on myself to pretty much, let's just get this going, and hopefully I can just move this right along, and just kind of like the pace or expectation that I put on myself to move this right along once I was in the outside world. But I realized that while I was ill, I went so deeply into myself for survival, and that's where I had to live for so long, as we are stuck in fight and flight. And I want to acknowledge you for having to live in this place, because I think unless you've experienced what it really feels like to be stuck in fight and flight day in and day out, nobody could ever imagine what kind of torture this really is. And I think once we get out into the world, we somehow have this expectation on ourselves that, okay, I'm doing it, and hopefully I'll be okay. And that hopefully I'll be okay, that's traveling with you all the time, is so annoying, because you're still not sure what the ramifications are going to be once you start taking your steps out there, and how you can feel like it's such an intense journey in yourself, and you can't really talk to people about it because, one, they may not understand you at this point because you haven't been able to communicate with them at all. You've given up your friends, you've given up your family, you are just trying to stay on this planet. That this piece, when you're going out into the world, is quite magnificent in its own journey. And I have had to work so diligently on this piece of when I came back out into the world, because you lose touch, and you lose touch with people, but you lose touch with you and who you used to be at one point in time. And we are in search of things that make sense to us, and who we are now becoming, and who we were, and how do I navigate this whole peace, because I didn't know, because I didn't talk to anybody. I talked to Cheryl. That was about it. Because I couldn't. And, I had home health aides, but, because we can't talk much, and if we do talk, then we feel worse. So it's like a illness in its own way of like silence. But the noise and the words are still happening in our minds. And we are trying to stay basically sane while going through this whole immense crises in our lives. And I really feel, because this illness is that type where it silences you, there are certain, of course, horrific illnesses that do that, where you can't speak. I'm quite aware. This really is one of them, because you can no longer communicate in the way that you were used to without paying a price. And I would have never, ever thought that I would not be able to talk to people. Never. And that does something to you, because you disconnect. You no longer have anything in common with the old people in your life. You're so detached. And I know that a lot of you feel that way. And when you're going back out into the world, you work on your skills to be able to not necessarily reattach, but to be able to function in the outside world again. Because I changed so much that, the inner work that I had to do just for survival, and when you came out and the things that people are talking about, you just can't relate to it anymore. I'm talking about this again because I know I've mentioned it in the past, but there's a loneliness, and I think that's what I want to talk about, is the loneliness of illness. Because, so often we bump into people, or they say like, well, why don't you try this? Or, if you just did this, you'd feel so much better. And it doesn't work for us a lot of the time. Or it may work for us, but we have to work really, really hard at it and continuously. And then maybe we'll start seeing the light of it. And I know that's what I had to do too, to break out and get out into the world. I had to do multiple strategies, I've mentioned them to you before, to get my body to calm down and feel safe. But I'm here to acknowledge the people that are going through a serious illness, that one, nobody's even really asked them how they feel in their life. Two, they are constantly being told, well, you know what, maybe if you got some fresh air and you went and sat outside, you might feel better. Or you do this or that, maybe it would be good for you. Maybe you just need to take a drive. They're not understanding the depth of where you are. And three, that sometimes we just need to sit with someone who can just hear us, just listen to how we truly feel, and the healing that can take place by just the listening aspect of what you're going through, and how much I feel illness benefits from being able to talk and get these feelings out to someone who's got your back, who you can risk having a conversation like that with. And that's deep, because trust is huge in also this illness, because we all know that there's been a lot of trauma, betrayal, just events in our lives that have, injured us in ways that we are healing from. And when you're this ill, you try really hard to just, like I said, stay grounded, stay on the planet, and you're doing so much work. But sometimes I feel just someone listening to how you truly feel is the greatest healer. And or just you just need to cry with someone, show your emotion, or a hug. And I even talk to my mom a lot about it, because she has AFS badly, plus she has some other illnesses. And she's always said sometimes it's just so nice if someone just listens to how you feel. And I'm always like, Mom, it's so true. You just need that good buddy to comfort you. And I guess I just want to acknowledge all of you that are going through, this illness or a different illness, that I hope you have that buddy. And if you don't, I'm always here to listen too. And because I don't want you to be alone. Because I felt lonely. And we are very strong people, but we need to be able to share sometimes our feelings of exactly what you were going through, to help us to feel trust again, and somebody gets us, or even if they don't totally understand, they're willing to just sit and listen and grow too from what we're going through. Because through what we're going through, we're learning so many things, and we can share those things with them. But I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, because we have to talk. We have to be able to connect in a way where we can start to build our trust again in even people, that they care to listen, that I can be honest with someone about how I truly feel, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking to be honest. And in our world of more like pretend, like, how you doing? Great, how are you? So you just respond, yeah, I'm doing well, yada, yada, yada. But, we all know that most of the time that's just not accurate. So I just want you to feel like you could share something if you needed to, hear how you really felt. And I've said it before, but let's just get through this together and support each other and love each other. And because there's a lot going on the planet right now, and America is there's so much going on in America, and I've had to deal with all that. And, we are highly sensitive people, and all of these things, affect us, and you can't really escape them because they're affecting our lives. So, it adds more stress, so you have to watch that and manage it. But it's also real life that's happening too. And I just want to say, let's keep going, and we'll get through this together with love, with healing energy, with support, with caring, with being good humans, and because we are the lights on the planet. It's us, beautiful people. It's us. So please know that I think about you all the time, and let's keep moving forward and get through this, okay? Keep growing, keep evolving, all right? Bye-bye.